Hi everyone. Today's video request comes to me from my friend Christine. She wanted to work on releasing the hamstrings, the backs of the legs, and also stress reduction during this quarantine time. I'm sure a lot of you are having those feelings of stress. So this is actually a really nice pairing, working on the hamstrings and stress at the same time, because anytime we're in a position where our heart is forward, so like a seated forward fold that stretches the hamstrings, that position of melting our heart forward and bringing our head towards the ground is actually really great for stress. So before we start, just a quick note on the hamstrings and their opposing muscle, the quads. So a lot of people think I have really tight hamstrings, I stretch my hamstrings a bunch and nothing happens. So the quads and the hamstrings are antagonist muscles, so they work in opposition to one another. A lot of times when you're not really having any luck stretching the hamstrings, it might be an issue from the quad itself. So when the quads are chronically tight, which happens when we're sitting because our knees are bent, shortening that muscle, that's going to pull the pelvis forward, which is going to, one, cause a lot of stress on the low back, and two, cause the hamstrings to be in a chronically stretched state, which is going to weaken the muscle overall. So yes, we're going to work on stretching out the hamstrings. We'll work towards our full splits towards the end of class, but we're also going to do a lot of work on the quad muscles, and that's why, just because the two of them work together and in opposition with one another. So let's get started in a child's pose today. For props, I'm going to suggest you have 2 blocks. If you do, great. If you don't, not the end of the world. You can grab books if you want to. I'll also suggest you have a bolster or a rolled up blanket. And then I'm also going to introduce some myofascial release work. So if you have 2 tennis balls, that's great. It's not going to be a huge portion of class today, so if you don't, just skip that part. So for our child's pose, I suggest you take that blanket or bolster in between your calves and your hamstrings. Bring your hips down, and you can have knees together or knees out wide. Just get really comfortable here. Stretch the arms out, melt the heart forward, and settle in. Just noticing sensations in your body, noticing any areas of tension, noticing your breath. Is it flowing smoothly, or do you feel as though you're holding on to your breath? Do you feel any constriction in the heart space? And can you breathe into that tension, that constriction? And just start to take a few cleansing breaths in through the nose and out the mouth. Deep breath in, fill up the lungs all the way. Exhale, open your mouth, sigh your breath out. A couple more rounds like that. And then bring your mouth to close. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out your nose. See if you can begin to lengthen and deepen each inhale and exhale. And then it might feel nice to bring some gentle movement into the arms here. Walk both hands over to the right. Really press into that left palm and breathe into your left side body. Maybe tent up onto the fingertips and see how far you can walk your fingertips forward. And then walk your hands back through center and over to the left. First, pressing into that right palm, deep breaths into the right side body. And then maybe tent up onto the fingertips Reach the fingertips forward. Inhale, walk both hands back through center. And then rise up into a tabletop pose. Connecting breath with movement here. Exhale, round into your spine, tuck your chin to your chest. Inhale to drop your belly, lift your gaze. Exhale, round, find that cat pose. Inhale to cow. Once more of each. And then find a neutral tabletop position. If you had that bolster in between the calves and the hamstrings, go ahead and release it. Tuck the toes and sit back on your heels. I'm coming into a hero's pose here. So when we release the backs of the legs, we want to start with the feet, stretching into that plantar fascia. And just pausing here for a few breaths. This is going to get uncomfortable. If you need to, you can lift up. You can untuck the toes at any point, but try to hold it as long as you can. And then while we're here, we'll work on a little bit of box breathing. So go ahead and close your eyes. Inhale to the count of 3. Hold your breath for the count of 3. Exhale to the count of 3. Hold your breath at the bottom for the count of 3. And then continuing like this, inhale for 3, 2, 1, hold, 1, 2, 3, exhale, 3, 2, 1, hold, 1, 2, 3. Take a few more rounds at your own pace. You can increase that count if you'd like to. This is a really nice stress reduction technique. When you're ready, find your tabletop and then lift your hips up and back, come into your downward dog. Resist the urge to pedal out the feet for this first downward dog. Just pause in stillness. Lifting up through the inner arches of the feet. And then lifting the kneecaps up, activating the quads. The heels are reaching towards the ground. That doesn't necessarily mean they're touching. The knees are working to be straight. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to. Inhale to lift the heels. Exhale, bend deeply into the knees. Melt your chest towards your thighs. Relax your head and your neck. And then exhale, straighten into the legs. Reach the heels down. And once more like that, inhale, lift the heels up. Bend into the knees. Melt the chest towards the thighs. Relax the head and the neck. Inhale, straighten into the legs. Reach the heels down. Inhale to look forward, rise up onto your toes, walk your feet up to meet your hands. Inhale, find a half lift, hands come to shins. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale to sweep your arms all the way up, lift your gaze. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Take a few sun salutation A's. Inhale, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant your hands, walk your feet back, coming into your high plank pose. Your choice. We're going to move through our vinyasa here. You can keep your knees lifted. You can drop them down. Hug your elbows tight to your chest. Exhale, either lowering halfway down and hovering, or all the way down to your belly. Inhale, lifting up into a cobra, just lifting the chest, or lifting all the way into a full upward dog by lifting the thighs and the knees. Exhale, back to your downward dog. Inhale to look forward, rise onto toes. Exhale, walk, step, or hop feet to hands. Inhale, hands to shins. Exhale, fold back down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Once more, inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant your palms, moving through that vinyasa, coming to meet in downward dog. Inhale, sweep your right leg high. Exhale, draw your knee towards your nose. Create space. Step that right foot up and in between your hands. We're going to practice that a few more times, just working on that hip flexor strength to get the foot to step up in between the hands. If that was extremely difficult for you, go ahead and bring your hands up onto blocks. The blocks can be on any level. And then we'll step back to our downward dog. Inhale, sweep the right leg high. Exhale, draw your knee towards your nose, round through the upper back. Step that right foot up and in between your hands. We'll do once more. Step the foot back. If you need to, maybe lift up onto higher levels of the blocks. Inhale, sweep the right leg high. Exhale, knee to nose, round through the upper back. Step your foot up and in between your hands. And then go ahead and scoot that left knee back and drop it down to the ground. Untuck left toes. The hands can stay on blocks. They can stay on the ground. And then just taking a little movement here. Exhale, straighten into that right leg. Pull your toes towards your face. Stretching into the back of the right leg, getting into that hamstring. Inhale, shift your weight forward back into that low lunge. Exhale, straighten, pull toes towards your face. Inhale, come forward. Last time, exhale. This time, point the toes, stretching into the top of the shin. Pull the toes back towards your face, bend back into that right knee. Heel toe your right foot all the way over to the right side of your mat. Bring your right hand to the inside of the right foot. And then bring your right hand up to your right thigh. Press that right knee open, come up onto the outside edge of your right foot. This doesn't feel good on the knee or the hips. Just keep that knee stacked over your ankle. And then working on some flexibility in the left quad, hip flexor. Go ahead and bend into your left knee. And then start to reach back for your foot with your right hand. Maybe you grab it. Maybe you're just reaching for it. If you have a strap or a shirt, you can wrap it around the foot and reach back for that. If you have some more flexibility in the quads, you can even draw that heel in towards your hips. Release the foot gently. Bring the right hand down to the mat. Heel toe your right foot back in through center. Tuck the left toes, lift the left knee up. If you want to, you can bring hands back up onto blocks. We're going to sweep that right leg high back up into our three-legged dog. And then bend into the right knee, open up through that hip. Might feel good to take some circles with that right knee. Maybe circle out the right ankle. And then straighten the right leg out, close the hip off towards the ground, and drop the right foot down. Taking it to the other side, inhale, sweep the left leg high. Exhale, knee to nose, step your left foot forward. Taking 2 more rounds like that, option to bring hands up onto blocks. Inhale, come back up. Lift the left leg high. Exhale, knee to nose. Step the left foot forward. Exhale, back to your downward dog. And once more, inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, knee to nose. Step it forward. And then slide the right knee back, drop the foot down. Hands can stay on the ground or come up onto blocks. And taking that movement, exhale, straighten into your left leg, pull your toes towards your face. Inhale to lunge. Exhale, straighten. Inhale to lunge. Exhale. Point your left toes. Breathe into that left shin. Flex your left toes, bend into your left knee. Heel toe that left foot over to the left. The left hand comes to your left thigh. Press the knee over to the left. Come up onto the outside edge of that left foot. Stay active through that right shoulder. And then starting to stretch into the right hip flexor, start to bend into your right knee. Maybe reach back for the foot with your left hand, or wrap a strap around the foot. Maybe pull that heel in closer towards your hips. Gently release the right foot. Bring the left hand back down to the ground, heel toe the left foot in through center. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee up, sweep that left leg back up to your three-legged dog. Open up through the left hip, bend into your knee. Maybe circle out that knee. Maybe circle out the ankle. Lift the left leg high, square the hip off to the ground, and then drop it down to the ground, coming into your downward dog. Inhale to look forward, rise up onto your toes, bend your knees. You're going to walk, step, or hop your feet to the outsides of your hands. Turn the toes out slightly, heels in, and then sink the hips low, coming into a malasana, a squat pose. So we're going to do a release using our tennis balls or any other myofascial release ball that you have. So this is a release I actually saw on Active Mobility's Instagram yesterday. So they're a company that makes these awesome myofascial release balls. You can order them online. But what we're going to do, and you can do this with tennis balls, it's a little easier with these because they have a flat surface, but I'll show you both ways. You're going to bring the ball in between the calf and the hamstring. And then you're going to sink into that malasana, that squat pose. And especially if you've got tennis balls, they might pop out and roll around. That's fine. Just kind of searching for a spot that you can kind of get them to stay in place. And you'll feel some pressure on the calf. You'll feel some pressure on the hamstrings. We're working into trigger points of these muscles. You might play around with moving them down the calves, up the hamstrings a little bit, and just settle into this release. Take a couple deep breaths. Be okay with the tension, the discomfort of the balls pressing against the muscles. If you want to, you can move them down the calves once more. Couple more breaths. And then release out of that and make your way into a seated Dandasana pose, legs stretched out straight in front of you. So you may want to have hips up on a bolster or a blanket here. Sometimes that can make forward folding a little bit more comfortable and accessible for people. Just take a few moments to settle into your Dandasana. You're going to flex your toes towards your face. Activate the thighs, so lift the kneecaps up towards the hips. Inhale for length in the spine. Reach the crown of your head up. And then exhale, slowly just start to walk the hands towards the feet. We'll use our breath to melt into this forward fold. So this forward fold is about hinging at the hips. We're not worrying about, can I get my forehead down to touch my legs by rounding into the back. We want to keep the back flat. Inhale for length, keep reaching the crown of the head forward. Exhale, hinge at the hips and use that action of hinging at the hips to fold us forward. You can grab a hold of your calves or your big toes or the outsides of the feet if that's accessible, or just keep your hands on the sides of your legs. Couple more breaths, inhaling for length, reaching the crown forward, resisting the urge to fold in the back. Exhale, hinge at the hips, deepen this forward fold. Inhale to lift up. If you're sitting up on a bolster or a blanket, go ahead and remove it. We'll do one more release using our tennis balls for the hamstrings. So your hamstring muscle is actually two bundles that go down the back of the leg, and the sciatic nerve travels in between those. So I suggest having two. You can absolutely use one, but I wouldn't recommend putting the ball right in the middle of the back of the leg. That's just putting more pressure on the sciatic nerve instead of the muscle. So you're going to sit up with your tennis balls side by side down the back of the leg. We're going to start right up by the end of the glutes. And if you have a long sock at home, you can put the tennis balls in a sock, tie a knot at the end of it. That will keep them from falling apart from one another. You're going to bend the left foot and then just roll forward and back along the length of that hamstring. So this isn't a super intense release, just giving the back of the leg a little massage. And then go ahead and switch over to the other side. Bend the right foot, and lift the hips up a little bit, and rock forward and back. Getting the entire length of that hamstring. This is a nice release you can do all the way back down the calves too. We're just going to do the hamstrings today though. When you're ready, come on out of that and make your way back to your downward dog. On your inhale, sweep that right leg high. Exhale, draw your knee to your nose, step your right foot up and in between your hands. Inhale, rise up to your high lunge. Tuck the tailbone here, which will put a little bit more stretch on that left hip flexor. And then bend a little deeper into the right knee. Exhale, bend your left knee, bend both elbows. Don't let that left knee quite touch the ground. Just let it hover a couple inches above the ground. Stretching deeper into that left hip flexor. Inhale, straighten up. Keep that right knee bent. Exhale, hands come down to frame the right foot. Start to straighten into both legs, finding our pyramid pose. Step the left foot forward if you need to. Fold over that right leg. This is a nice pose where, depending on hamstring flexibility, you may want to have hands on blocks here. And then note the hip. So a lot of times we tend to want that right hip to pull forward and the left hip to pull back to make it easier for ourselves. But try to keep that right hip pulling back and the left hip pulling forward. Couple more breaths here. And then from here we'll walk both of our hands over to the left, making our way into a wide-legged forward fold. Walk the hands out in front of you, stacking the wrists under the shoulders. Inhale, sweep the right arm high. Exhale, drop the right hand down, sweep the left arm high. Exhale, drop the left hand down, walk the hands back. They're working to be in line with the feet here. And then just take a few breaths to settle in. Think about hinging at the hips like when we were in that seated forward fold. Send your weight more into the balls of the feet. And then walk both hands back towards that right foot. Walk your hands forward, lift the left leg up, find your standing splits. So our standing splits is not about opening that left hip and how high we can get the left foot. Keep that left hip dialing straight down to the ground. And then lift the foot. Maybe you start to walk your hands back towards that right foot. Maybe you grab a hold of the right leg, working on balance. And then bring the hands back down to the ground if you lifted them. Start to bend back into that right knee. Reach the left foot all the way back. Step back, downward dog. Feel free to pedal out the feet, to take a vinyasa, to take a child's pose. Inhale, sweep the left leg high. Exhale, knee to nose. Step your left foot up and in between your hands. Inhale, rise up to that high lunge. Tuck the tailbone, putting a little more stretch on that right hip flexor. And then bend a little deeper into the left knee. Bend into the right knee, bend into the elbows. Don't let that knee touch the ground. Should really feel the stretch down that right quad. Inhale, lift the arms, straighten into the right leg. Exhale, hands come down to frame the left foot. Straighten into both legs, find that pyramid pose. Step your right foot forward if you need to. Bring hands onto blocks if you need to. Left hip pulls back, right hip presses forward. And then we'll start to walk both hands over to the right, finding that wide-legged forward fold. Turn the left toes in, the right toes out, maybe widen the stance a little bit here. And then playing around with any variation of a wide-legged forward fold that feels good for you. Maybe you wrap your thumb and your first two fingers around the big toes. Maybe you clasp your hands behind your back for a shoulder stretch. Maybe you walk your hands underneath the legs. Wherever you're at, sending your weight more up into the toes. If you have a tripod headstand in your practice and want to play around with that, feel free to do so. We'll hold here for a few more breaths. Begin to walk your hands back towards the front of the mat. Turn the left toes forward. Come up onto the ball of the right foot. Walk both hands forward. Lift the right leg up. Finding your standing splits. Standing splits might be hands on blocks. Dial the right hip down, the right toes down. Maybe walk the hands back towards that left foot. Maybe grabbing just above the ankle for some balance. And then releasing the hands, bend into the left knee, reach the right foot back. Find your downward dog. Pedal out the feet, take a vinyasa. Do whatever your body is calling for. On your inhale, look forward, lift the heels, bend the knees, exhale, feet to hands. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold, hanging out here for a few breaths. Option to grab a hold of big toes. Option to grab opposite elbows. Maybe step the feet on top of the palms. Maybe reach the arms back towards the heels. Keep sending the weight up into the toes. We're not overstretching the hamstrings, so keep at least a micro bend in the knees, if not more. Slowly release out of this. Inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms and gaze lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step your left foot all the way back. We're going to set up for our low lunge. Drop the left knee down, untuck toes. And then coming into our half splits, maybe full splits here. I suggest having 2 blocks by your sides. So first coming into the half splits, start to straighten into that right leg. Maybe you walk the hands back and bring that left hip all the way down onto the left heel. You can fold any amount over that right leg. You could come into the full splits by walking the right foot forward, keeping hands on blocks for support, just slowly scooting the left knee back, the right heel forward. Keep pressing into the blocks with the hands so that we're not collapsing our way into the hamstrings. We're slowly controlled, lowering down. Holding for a few breaths, and then seeing if you can soften a little bit deeper into it. Wherever you're at, making your way carefully back up to that low lunge. Lift the left knee up, step the left foot forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold, step the right foot all the way back. Taking it to the other side, drop the right knee down. Untuck the toes, first finding the half splits, even if you know you're going to take full splits, just to prepare. Straighten the left leg, reach the right hip all the way down towards the right heel. Maybe fold over that left leg. If you want to play around with the full splits, lifting back up, bringing hands onto blocks. Scoot the left heel forward, the right knee back. There's no rush to get into this pose. It's better to take it slow and not overdo it. And once you get to that point where you're feeling a lot of resistance, stop. Hold, maybe use your breath, and your breath will allow you to settle a little bit further into this pose. But if not, who cares? Couple more breaths wherever you're at. Press into the blocks, lifting back up into that low lunge. Lift the right knee up, step the right foot forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold, plant the hands. Make your way back to your downward dog. Maybe flow through one last vinyasa. And then drop your knees. Shift your hips to your heels. Find your child's pose. So thank you all for practicing with me. I won't do an official Shavasana, but please take the time to spend a few minutes in stillness. It might feel really nice to take our legs up the wall after all of that hamstring work, or if you're planning on continuing to do some more yoga, please feel free to do so. So thanks for watching. Namaste.